King Kong Lies 1986. The film begins with a surprising twist. King Kong has survived his fall from the World Trade Center 10 years earlier but has been in a coma since the fall. Dr. Amy Franklin, a scientist, keeps him alive through experimental means at the Atlanta Institute. Unfortunately, Kong's condition is deteriorating, and he needs a blood transfusion to survive a groundbreaking artificial heart surgery. As luck would have it, another giant ape, later named Lady Kong, is discovered in the wilds of Borneo by adventurer Hank Mitchell. Hank captures Lady Kong and brings her to the institute to serve as a blood donor for King Kong. After the surgery, King Kong recovers and eventually escapes with Lady Kong, leading to a series of events as they attempt to evade capture by the military. The two form a romantic bond, and Lady Kong soon becomes pregnant. The military, viewing the apes as a threat, sets out to capture or kill them, resulting in a dramatic showdown. In the film's emotional climax, Kong sacrifices himself to protect Lady Kong and their newborn child from military forces. King Kong ultimately succumbs to his injuries, leaving Lady Kong to care for their baby as she returns to her natural habitat. Cast: Linda Hamilton as Dr. Amy Franklin, Brian Kerwin as Hank Mitchell, John Ashton as Lieutenant Colonel Archie Nevitt, Peter Elliott as King Kong. Director, John Gillerman. The budget for King Kong Lives was estimated at $10 million, which was modest compared to the 1976 predecessor's $24 million budget. Despite its lower budget, the film was considered costly given its ambitious plot, special effects, and location shoots in forests and mountainous areas that were meant to mimic the apes' natural habitats. Upon release, the film struggled at the box office, grossing only around $4.7 million domestically. Its disappointing performance was exacerbated by poor reviews, which critiqued the script, direction, and special effects. Many felt the film lacked the emotional depth and spectacle of earlier King Kong films. King Kong 2005. Set in the 1930s, King Kong follows the journey of struggling actress Ann Darrow, who is cast in a mysterious film directed by Carl Denham. Denham is a down-on-his-luck filmmaker with a reputation for taking risks to make a big blockbuster. He convinces Ann to join him and his crew on an expedition to the uncharted Skull Island, where he believes he can capture the ultimate footage of a new, undiscovered world. On Skull Island, the crew discovers that it is home to a variety of monstrous creatures, including the giant ape King Kong. Ann is kidnapped by the native tribes and offered as a sacrifice to Kong, who is immediately smitten with her. Rather than harming her, Kong forms a protective bond with Ann, and she begins to trust and care for him as well. Meanwhile, Jack Driscoll, a screenwriter on the crew, embarks on a rescue mission. Eventually, Kong is captured and brought to New York City, where he is put on display as a sideshow attraction for the amusement of the public. The film explores the exploitation of Kong as a living spectacle, mirroring the mistreatment of animals in real life. As expected, Kong escapes, causing chaos in the city, culminating in a memorable fight atop the Empire State Building. The film ends tragically, with Kong's death after a confrontation with military planes. As he falls from the skyscraper, Ann watches in sorrow, echoing the timeless Beauty and the Beast narrative. Cast: Naomi Watts as Ann Darrow, Jack Black as Carl Denham, Adrian Brody as Jack Driscoll, Thomas Kretschmann as Captain Englehorn, Colin Hanks as Preston, Andy Serkis as King Kong. Motion capture, director, Peter Jackson. King Kong had a massive production budget of approximately $207 million, making it one of the most expensive films ever made at the time. The film's extravagant budget was largely allocated to visual effects, with significant resources dedicated to creating Kong using motion capture technology, as well as building elaborate sets and CGI creatures. The film's production spanned over 3 years, with detailed care taken to recreate the period setting and convey a modern, yet faithful retelling of the original. Upon its release, King Kong was a commercial success, grossing over $550 million worldwide, including $218 million in the United States alone. It performed well at the box office, though its earnings did not match those of the Lord of the Rings films. Despite its success, the film's high production costs meant it took some time to reach profitability. It was nominated for several Academy Awards and won 3, including Best Visual Effects, cementing its legacy as a technical achievement. Kong, Skull Island 2017. The film is set in 1973, shortly after the end of the Vietnam War, when a group of scientists, soldiers, and adventurers set out to explore the mysterious Skull Island, located in the South Pacific. The expedition is led by Bill Randa, a government official working for a secret organization known as Monarch, which is dedicated to investigating mysterious phenomena like giant creatures. They are joined by former British SAS soldier James Conrad and photographer Mason Weaver. Upon their arrival, the team discovers that Skull Island is not a typical uncharted island. It is home to a range of monstrous creatures, including the gigantic Kong. The expedition quickly turns chaotic when Kong attacks their helicopters, and many of the team members are separated in the aftermath. As they venture deeper into the island, the team discovers that Kong is not a mindless beast but a guardian of the island, protecting it from even more dangerous creatures, including a deadly species of skullcrawlers that threaten to destroy the island's ecosystem. The story shifts between the group's struggle for survival, as they navigate the island's treacherous terrain, and Kong's efforts to protect the island from the malevolent creatures that seek to ravage it. The humans eventually form an alliance with Kong, realizing that he is a force of nature that must be preserved, rather than feared. The film's climax features a battle between Kong and the monstrous skullcrawlers, with Kong ultimately triumphing, securing his place as the island's protector. The film ends with a post-credits scene, hinting at the connection between Kong and other giant creatures, setting up the broader monsterverse, especially for the anticipated clash between Godzilla and Kong. Cast: Tom Hiddleston as James Conrad, Brie Larson as Mason Weaver, John Goodman as Bill Randa, Samuel L. Jackson as Preston Packard, John C. Reilly as Hank Marlowe. Director: Jordan Vogt Roberts. Kong, Skull Island had a production budget of around $185 million, which was primarily allocated to the high-quality visual effects, the creation of Kong, using motion capture and CGI, and the design of the many other giant creatures on Skull Island. The film was shot in several exotic locations, including Vietnam, Australia, and Hawaii, to capture the island's lush, dangerous environment. Upon its release, Kong, Skull Island was a commercial success, grossing $566 million worldwide. The film performed well both domestically and internationally, making it one of the highest-grossing films of 2017. It was praised for its visual effects, action sequences, and the strong performances of the ensemble cast. Critics and audiences particularly enjoyed the fresh take on the Kong story, as well as the way it expanded the monsterverse. Godzilla vs. Kong 2021. The movie takes place in a world where humanity is aware of the existence of kaiju, giant monsters, after the events of Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Kong, having been contained on Skull Island and studied by Monarch, is being carefully monitored for his safety and for the safety of humans. However, Godzilla, for reasons unknown, begins attacking cities and wreaking havoc, leading to fears that the once protector of Earth has turned into a destructive force. To understand why Godzilla has gone rogue, Dr. Nathan Lind, a scientist with Monarch, theorizes that the key to stopping Godzilla lies in the Hollow Earth, a mysterious and uncharted region beneath the Earth's surface. He enlists Dr. Eileen Andrews, a leading Kong expert, to help him transport Kong to the Hollow Earth in hopes that Kong can find the energy source that will help defeat Godzilla. The film then pivots into a monumental confrontation between Kong and Godzilla, each representing different aspects of the Earth's ancient powers. Kong is shown to be the protector of the Hollow Earth, while Godzilla is seen as a force of nature that has been disrupted. Both monsters battle each other in spectacular sequences, with their fight raging across various locations, from the oceans to the urban centers. The two titans clash multiple times throughout the movie, culminating in an intense showdown that sees the two monsters go head-to-head in a final battle in the heart of Hong Kong. However, the real threat arises when a new artificial titan, Godzilla, emerges, a creation by a corporate conspiracy involving Apex Cybernetics. In the end, Godzilla and Kong must set aside their differences and join forces to defeat the mechanical beast, with Kong ultimately reclaiming his status as a protector of the Earth. Cast: Alexander Skarsgård as Dr. Nathan Lind, Millie Bobby Brown as Madison Russell, Rebecca Hall as Dr. Eileen Andrews, Brian Tyree Henry as Bernie Hayes, Kyle Chandler as Mark Russell, director, Adam Wingard. Godzilla vs. Kong was produced with a budget of approximately $200 million, a sizable sum for a blockbuster of this scale, primarily allocated toward the extensive use of CGI, motion capture, and visual effects to create the massive action scenes featuring the two iconic monsters. The film was initially delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it was eventually released both in theaters and via streaming on HBO Max. Upon its release, Godzilla vs. Kong became a major commercial success, grossing $467 million worldwide, despite the ongoing pandemic affecting global box office revenues. It performed especially well in international markets, where audiences flocked to see the epic battle between the two kaiju. The film also performed well in the streaming arena, as HBO Max saw a significant number of viewers tuning in for the release. The film's combination of monster spectacle, action, and fan appeal contributed to its box office success, making it the highest-grossing film of 2021, and solidifying its place as a major hit for Warner Bros. And Legendary. Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire 2024. Kong stumbles upon an uncharted area in Hollow Earth, where he meets a young ape, Zuko, and an entire hidden tribe of his species. As they explore, Kong and Zuko bond and encounter an ancient foe, the Scar King, who once tried to conquer the surface world. Scar King seeks to bring about a new Ice Age, aided by Shimo, an ice-breathing titan enslaved by him. Jia, who shares a telepathic connection with the Iwi tribe, along with Dr. Eileen Andrews and Titan experts, rush to help Kong and Godzilla confront this new threat. Godzilla absorbs cosmic radiation to enhance his power, while Kong battles Scar King, eventually wielding his signature axe with Zuko's help. With the support of Mothra, who has also awakened, they finally defeat Scar King, freeing Shimo from his control. Cast: Rebecca Hall as Dr. Eileen Andrews, Brian Tyree Henry as Bernie Hayes, Dan Stevens as Trapper, Kaylee Hoddle as Jia, Alex Ferns as Mikhail, Fala Chen as the Iwi Queen. Director, Adam Wingard. Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire had a production budget of around $135 million, making it one of the less expensive entries in the MonsterVerse series. Despite its relatively modest budget for a major blockbuster, the film performed impressively at the box office. In its first weekend alone, it earned $80 million domestically and exceeded $200 million globally within 5 days of release, later surpassing the $500 million mark worldwide. Analysts projected the film could close its theatrical run with earnings between $575 million and $600 million. This financial success, along with the positive response to the ongoing MonsterVerse series, suggests that Legendary may pursue additional movies in the franchise, further building on the stories of Godzilla, Kong, and other titans.